Have you ever wanted to make static photos by rubbing a pencil on a transferable piece of paper onto figures that are completely disproportionate to the backgrounds provided? Then this is the episode for you. Welcome to Culturally Relevant, the show about culture that was relevant over 30 years ago. And why would I make a show about culture that was relevant so long ago? I don't know any new things. So I couldn't make a show about Instagram or TikTok. Today on the show, we're going to talk about these guys. Pardon the light shining right off of the plastic that these are in. These are Presto Magix from 1983. The 4 Return of the Jedi Presto Magix from that year. Return of the Jedi came out in 1983, and at the time it was criticized for being just a way for George Lucas to sell toys, and they weren't wrong, because here it is in 2021, and I still have Return of the Jedi toys. They must have made about 100 bazillion of these particular Presto Magix, because you can still get them all over the internet. They're not hard to find, even though they're from 1983. If only those critics knew the future of Star Wars, I think they would have appreciated Return of the Jedi a little bit more. I know as a child, I really enjoyed Return of the Jedi. I enjoyed the Ewoks, even though they were created just for toy purposes. Worked on me. I even told kids at school that the reason Ewoks were on Endor was because Endor was a society of Wookiees originally, but George Lucas, when he created Star Wars, the first film, I don't think it was called A New Hope yet. It may have been. But back then, we just called it Star Wars. When he was creating Star Wars, aka A New Hope, that he didn't think he was going to get to make Return of the Jedi, and he wouldn't get to have one of his prized Wookiees in the film, so he created a co-pilot Wookiee, and because he did that, he couldn't have Wookiees on Endor, so we get half of Wookiees. We get Ewoks, which are half Wookiees. I think I might even have told people that Ewok actually meant half a Wookiee. I could go on and on for a whole video about the various toys they had planned for Return of the Jedi, because Star Wars toys very hot at the time. But let me hit you with a commercial for Presto Magix so you can see the things that taunted us with Star Wars Return of the Jedi merchandise.
Presto Magix, Return of the Jedi, makes the action come alive.
With Presto Magix Return of the Jedi Super Transfer Set, you get a big action board and over 150 Star Wars transfers to make the action come alive.
Watch this! Here comes Darth Vader! Oh no! Hold on, Han, I'll save you!
Presto Magix, with all of your favorites, makes
Go
the
get
action
him, Luke!
come alive.
Don't be fooled by that commercial. Presto Magix reach was far more than Return of the Jedi. Presto Magix, I would say, are like the Funkos of their day, because anything that had a franchise, any sort of movie, any sort of TV show, comic books, cartoons, you name it, it had a Presto Magix set. In fact, I'm a little surprised that Funko hasn't come out with their own Presto Magix sets with the little Funko figures as the transferable characters. Now, back in the day, we had Colorforms and we had Presto Magix. Colorforms were a little more expensive because you could reuse them over and over again. They were like non-sticking plastic stickers that you could put on a plastic board background. Somehow that worked, and you would take them off and reorganize them, replace them on your board, making different scenarios all the time. Presto Magix, however, you could only transfer those dudes once. So you had to make good decisions when you did a Presto Magix. It wasn't you're just throwing your characters on there nonchalantly, knowing that you can switch them around later on. No, you had to put some thought into whether or not you were going to put that snork up in the tree, or you're going to put the snork down at the bottom of the ocean. Because once you make a decision, you can't go back on it. It's like life that way. Presto Magix came in 2 forms. The first form was more like a board game. It had a hard cardboard, like game board that had the same backgrounds that the cheaper versions had. but it had more transfers, and you could transfer more things on there. The background was still way disproportionate to your transfers, so you still got that experience. The smaller versions were much more numerous and a lot cheaper because it's just paper and the transferable characters. As you can see, I don't know if you guys can see that price tag. This one's from KB Toy Store. Shout out to KB Toy Store. We miss KB Toy Store for sure. This was 99 cents. This was about 99 cents everywhere you went. You could have got it at the grocery store. You could have got it at the drugstore. You could have got it at a toy store. Pretty much any store that carried anything for children, you could have got one of these. Let's go through the Return of the Jedi sets. First, we have the Ewok Village. We also have Jabba the Hutt's throne room. That's cool. I had that blue elephant guy playing the round piano. I don't know why we don't have round keyboards yet in bands. You'd think we would have that by now. Also, we have the Death Star. And finally, we have the Sarlacc Pit. The Sarlacc Pit used to be my favorite scene in the movie. It's lost a little bit of its magic since we saw a Sarlacc get killed on The Mandalorian. Sarlacc shouldn't get killed. So let's take a look at some 1983 packaging, shall we? Here we have the Death Star pack. As you can see, Presto Magix makes the action come alive for about 10 minutes, and then it just sits there staticky for the rest of time until you throw this away. What would you do with a finished Presto Magix scene? I don't really know. I don't remember what I did with the Presto Magix. I guess you'd put it on your wall for a while, or they wouldn't last long. They would definitely get trashed or thrown away pretty quickly. As you can see, it promises over 30 transfers. Not as impressive when you realize 20 of those transfers are just little guns that I guess are just laying around the Death Star, or little tiny explosions that are too tiny to really do anything unless they were like the Chinese finger firecrackers explosions. You guys remember Chinese finger firecrackers? Maybe I'll get some of those at some point. So even though it feels wrong, let's open this puppy up and see what's inside. You know what's inside? 1983 is inside. The air in this bag is from 1983, before a lot of you were born. Yep. Smells like Cabbage Patch Kids and Duran Duran. Finally released from its prison of 37 years. So, what would happen is this would just fold out. And this is your scene. So as you can see, the Emperor is already on the piece of paper, so we won't have a transfer of the Emperor. I don't know what's going on with him. He's sitting in that chair. Also, you'll notice that there's a little area to put your name in, so everybody knows that you made this particular Presto Magix. Presto Magix was something to be celebrated back in 1983. It's a good thing we have the copyright here, not to ruin our immersion in being in the Death Star. We gotta know who created the Death Star. So here's the transfer sheet, and as you can see right away, we have some issues. First of all, there's 2 Darth Vaders. So I don't know what Return of the Jedi movie these people who make the Presto Magix were seeing, but apparently they wanted some sort of custody battle over Luke with 2 Darth Vaders waiting for a paternity test to see which one is actually his father. I don't know if you guys can see this, but there's Admiral Akbar, who never once stepped foot on the Death Star. I do take solace in the fact that Admiral Akbar is on almost all of these transfer sheets for some reason. So either he was a really cheap image to get, or someone who worked for Presto Magix had a hard-on for Admiral Akbar. Who the hell is this guy? Dude in a purple robe apparently was hanging out on the Death Star. He looks like somebody screwed up and got the Indiana Jones Temple of Doom guys mixed up in this particular set of Presto Magics, and then Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom guy ended up on the Death Star because of that. That's a storyline I think we can run with, that and the paternity lawsuit. So to get the full Presto Magix experience, I'm going to have to take you guys on a little field trip so that I can properly transfer this Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom guy onto the Death Star background. So we're going to field trip all the way to the dining room. All right, everyone, welcome to my dining room. The lighting is probably a little bit different. I know there's some shadows and the sound is probably a little bit different as well because it's a little bit bigger room than the room I usually record in. But it was necessary for me to get the top-down view so you guys can see what's going on with Presto Magix. First of all, to work a Presto Magic, you would need to get a pencil. Apparently, I have a pencil that was actually made from a tree. Then you would decide which Presto Magic you want to put where. For this first Presto Magic, I believe we'll put an Imperial Guard right next to the Emperor. As you can see, completely disproportionate. This Imperial Guard looks like an Ewok dressed as an Imperial Guard next to the Emperor, but we have to deal with what they gave us. So you would take your pencil, you would scratch over the transfer that you're looking for. You have to make sure you get all of it. Because if you don't get all of it, then you're going to get an Imperial Guard that doesn't have legs, or an Imperial Guard that doesn't have a head. Because you only get one shot at this. Like, if something goes wrong right now, I can't stop this video and redo this, because this is the only time this particular transfer can be transferred. And if you didn't do it correctly, and you ended up with an Imperial Guard who didn't have a face, then some jerk like Ryan Spalding would come along and make fun of you and tell you your Presto Magic skills weren't up to par. And that's not something that you wanted to deal with in the first, second grade, having subpar Presto Magic skills. So table's kind of shaking. I feel like I've pretty much covered the entire ground here. Let's see if it worked. If this Presto Magic's from 40 years ago still works. You guys ready? Here we go. Presto Magix! Well, he's not perfect. He's kind of the ghost. Let's see. Well, he's not perfect. He looks kind of like a ghost version of an Imperial Guard. But most of them made it. That's not bad for something that's 40 years old. So don't tell Ryan Spalding and we'll be fine. The great thing about Presto Magix is that you can use the characters to your advantage. You can do whatever you want. You don't have to set an actual scene from the movie. For example, I have Admiral Akbar standing on R2-D2 so he can get a better look at the action. If he's going to be on the Death Star, he might as well be able to see what's happening. Over here, for the Emperor, he has his own pet Stormtrooper who has jumped up onto his lap because obviously some sort of random fire has started at his feet and his pet Stormtrooper is frightened. Over here, since Luke Skywalker is facing the wrong way, and I cannot get him to face the right way, he is now fighting his father, Darth Vader, with his flatulence. See, we can get really creative with these random puffs of smoke and fireballs. Another cool thing about Presto Magix is you don't have to transfer the entire figure. You can do whatever you want. It's your sheet. So for example, we'll take this Indiana Jones guy, and we're just going to transfer his head right now. Presto Magix! Now Darth Vader has a severed head. He's fighting Luke Skywalker with a severed head. And just like that, we're back in the office to wrap this up. But first, let me show you my finished product of my Presto Magix scene, Return of the Jedi, Death Star, 1983. And I signed it. Another great thing about Presto Magix was you weren't limited to just the background that they gave you. This could literally go on any piece of paper. This is why I believe I'm the only person, probably in the history of the world, who has a stormtrooper protecting beef tenderloin. It's a good deal on beef tenderloin. That's why the stormtrooper is there. He has to make sure people aren't hoarding it. That's Presto Magix. There wasn't a whole lot to them. It basically was just a way for your parents to buy 30 minutes of free time for about $1. I'll probably do Colorforms somewhere along the line as well, so we can see the differences between Colorforms and Presto Magix. They're kind of the same thing, but they're also completely different. Until the next episode of Culturally Relevant, if you have anything from the 80s or early 90s that you'd like me to try to talk about, just leave it in the comments. Subscribe. Hit the bell. Subscribe again. Make a second account and subscribe again. Subscribe your friends without them knowing. They'll be like, what's this really cool video that I was just told about? Somehow I subscribed and I must not remember. Works every time. Like, that's the other thing. Like, hit this guy, hit this thing. So do all that stuff until the next episode. This severed head, Ryan Spalding. Give my Donkey Kong game back.